Wonderful. It's so good to have all of you here. It's 10:02 and I will give Farah mic and we will take it from there. So Farah, go ahead, okay? I will unmute you.
Thank you, Olga, and thank you everyone who's here today with us for reading the chapter number 8, Meeting Amy. And as I think about the name of this chapter, what's coming to me is the various times that I had an opportunity to meet Amy. And the first time I had an opportunity to meet Amy was through her beautiful writing in this book. And as we were preparing for the India event in February, I was all set talking to the whole team and we were in touch with Steve, etc. And suddenly I realized that I would like to meet Amy before she comes to India. And so I set up a meeting with her on the 10th of February. And that was a kind of meeting that I will never forget. Because when I had a chance to talk to Amy, I got to see who she's being when she was creating the book, when she was so close to writing the book, and what an amazing experience she had. And then I had a chance to meet her again in India, in the Mumbai event. And while we were talking, one of the most interesting things that I discovered about Amy was that she had this absolute clarity about all her feelings. And she shared how humbling it was and how exhilarating it is to be able to come to India and experience something that we were putting together for the first time. And every time I met Amy through her words, through her book, I just felt so moved. And today that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a chance to read this beautiful chapter, Meeting Amy. Thank you for being here. And today I'd like to also say a big, big thank you to our two amazing readers, Emma Edwards and Robert Twine. I remember reading about when Robert said, life is a daring adventure or nothing. And that's what they've created. They have created that together in the Ultimate Coach Facebook group. And what they created is what we're going to experience together in this book reading today. So thank you, Emma and Robert, for saying yes for today's reading. And as we dive a little deeper in Meeting Amy, I wanted to invite you to listen to this chapter about you and to share about you as well. So thank you again. And as you have been part of this book reading with us, I'd like to also share that this event is a space that we have created with lots of love and a space of safety and inclusiveness. And so this is co-created with all of us. And I'd like to imagine you being in this space in a circle, and that we are holding hands and we are going through this experience of this book and this chapter to explore our being in community. So as we begin today, I'd like to invite you to share in the chat. Is there one person who you've met recently who has inspired you or impacted your life in a way that you never expected? Or someone who's totally astounded you by the way they are showing up in their being? Feel free to share the name in the chat so we can acknowledge one person in the recent past that has really, really impacted you. Beautiful. Harry is saying he's met himself. Olga says Dave. Tanya says Teresa. Dave, lovely. I just want to say that I had this incredible experience of meeting Erin. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. It's amazing to be able to be present to someone in our lives, you know, what that meeting can look like for us as well. As you keep sharing that, I want us to just take a moment. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge each and every one of you for being here today, especially on a Sunday, and to bring your incredible presence to this space. And this intention is for us to continue expanding ourselves through this reading and to be able to show up in ways that can inspire each other. And another way in which we'd love to create the wow of today's experience. And for me, wow is WOW, which is our ways of being, our ways of working this space, is that while acknowledgements of one another is very powerful, we request that you share about you. And if you feel called to acknowledge someone, we ask that you reach out privately or even use the Facebook group to do that. And use that as an opportunity to deepen your connect with the other person. And another reminder is we request that when you read about you. When you listen about you. And when it comes to time to share your insights, share what you're experiencing today, share about you. And as it's so beautifully stated by Byron Katie, all we experience about someone else is the idea we have of them. So please be aware that as you are sharing and you were to start to share from an idea of someone, not you, one of the moderators may lovingly guide you back to share about you. So I just want to invite you to have an incredible time today as we step into reading this chapter number 8, meeting Amy. And at this point, I would like to hand over to Andrea to take us forward. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, Farah. Thank you all for being here. Everything it took for you to be here today. Blessings, David. And thank you, Robert and Emma, for bringing all your love here. We really feel it. We really feel it. In the room this morning, we felt really grounded. Thank you, Olga, for grounding us. I love that. And so this is who has a physical copy of the book on them? If you would, please show us, hold it up for us so we can see who's got it. Who's got it? That looks like everyone. Awesome. Nice. And is there anyone here who's here for the first time? We'd like to acknowledge you. If you would put your hand up, or your electronic hand up, if you put your hand up if it's your first time here. Anyone here for the first time? I see. Anyone? No, everyone's been here. Okay. Great. Jackie, have you been here before? Jackie? Yes, you have. Okay, awesome. Awesome. Wow. So we've all been here. Nice. So I get the honor of choosing few people that would love to read for us today. How cool is that? Anyone got the burn, the yearning? Can you put your hand up if you feel called? Who's feeling called? Wolfgang is feeling called. Ooh, oh, I've got lots of callings. Okay, I get to pick now. Ooh, this is fun. Everyone wants to read. Okay, I'd like to ask Wolfgang, would you read the back of the book for us? Yes. Okay. And David, would you read the first 2 pages of the book for us? Awesome. So here's how the flow is, where we're going to make flow here. So first, Wolfgang is going to read the back of the book for us. And then David will read the first 2 pages. And then the amazing Emma and Robert will read chapter 8. So that's the flow. Everyone good with that? Yeah? Ready? Okay, let me just check if there's anything. It's the first time I'm doing this, so I just want to check that we've got it all. Oh yeah, if as you listen to the questions, the readers read the questions, if there's any question that sticks out for you, stands out, please put it in the chat. So please share in the chat the question that you will be focusing on if it's calling to you. And as a reminder, as everyone knows, please listen about you, read about you, share about you. All right, over to Wolfgang.
Dear potential reader, as you may have noticed, there is no testimonials on the back cover of this book, imploring you to read it. I wait for that. The only testimonial I'm interested in is the one you will have from reading and experiencing this book. Please do not read this book about me. Read this book about you. Read it about being. As you read it, ask yourself, who would I need to be a more loving person? Who do I need to be a more efficient parent? Who would I need to be to create a level of confidence that is remarkable? Who would I need to be at peace with who I am? Who would I need to be fully in love with myself and my life? Who would I need to be to live the most extraordinary life I can live? I promise you that if you read this book with the intention of expanding your state of being, you will do exactly that. Your experience will be remarkable. Who you are being is everything. Loving you, be blessed, be you.
I guess
Dave, we cannot hear you.
I wasn't speaking else. Before you begin, I never wanted to write a book. I haven't. I never wanted to have a book written about me, but here it is. This book is a gift from my wife, Amy, who wrote it, and my friend, Alan D. Thompson, who conducted the research and interviews on which it is based. And it's not just a gift to me, but to you too. And now you're reading it. So with your permission, I'll give you some suggestions on how to read it. You see, this isn't an ordinary book. It's not simply a biography, not a self-help book. It's not a literary classic. It's definitely not a book about how to coach. In fact, it's not a book about doing anything. It's a book about being. It's a book about you. To access this book, ask yourself these questions as you read. Who am I being as a partner, parent, or friend? Who am I being as a leader? Who am I being as a member of my community? Who would I need to be to have miracles show up in my daily life? Who would I need to be to create value in the work I do? Who would I need to be to generate a life of abundance? Who would I need to be to alter my relationship with fear? Who would I need to be at peace with my past? Who would I need to be to step powerfully into my future? Who would I need to be present as a way of being? Who would I need to be to live the most extraordinary life I can live? Who would I need to be to know that my life makes a difference? Who would I need to be fully in love with myself and my life? Who would I need to be to improve my relationships with the most important people in my life? Who would I need to be to read The Ultimate Coach and have a personal breakthrough in being wonderful me? The best part about this book about you, is that it is endless. The story goes on, and it's written by your being. Loving you, be blessed, be you, be hearted.
Meeting Amy. Steve knew nothing about Arizona except that it had cacti and Indians, and it was where his mum now lived. She had moved there while Steve was in England. She had found a higher paying job in Phoenix. Plus, Steve Missions had spurred Maureen to return to her faith. It would be easier to live a new life in a new place. Spiritually and financially, Arizona was a good move for her. It also left Steve homeless, since he had no intention of living anywhere but Utah, where he had friends, contacts, and opportunities. Still, Steve wanted to see his mum, and so he made the 13-hour drive to the Valley of Perpetual Sunshine. He never intended to stay long. In the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the myriad responsibilities called callings, from major leadership roles to teaching 3-year-olds in Sunday school, are filled by members of the congregation. All serve without pay. No one requests a calling. All callings are rotated every few years. At the time Steve returned from his mission, Maureen served in a calling that enabled her to work closely with the stake president, a local leader who presides over approximately 8 local congregations. Steve's mother was an impressive woman and a capable leader. When she hinted to the stake president that Steve would be a valuable asset in a class that prepared and trained future missionaries, the stake president jumped at the opportunity. Shortly after he met Steve, he asked him to help with the class. Steve agreed and extended his visit. The class was led by Gordon Jennings. Steve and another young man named David Bedford were called to help and support Gordon. As Gordon got to know Steve, he saw a man with fierce spiritual conviction, just like Gordon's sister-in-law, Amy Blake. The longer Gordon knew Steve, the more convinced he was that Steve and Amy should meet. Amy relates. Gordon had told me a couple of times that he had met someone he really wanted to introduce me to. It wasn't happening, so Gordon got creative. He asked the 2 guys who were helping him with the stake missionary prep class if they were okay if they stopped by his in-laws so he could drop off the cookie sheets that they had used that night. I didn't know about the cookie sheet ruse. I just knew that when I got home from a meeting, there was a note sitting on the counter from my sister. It said, "Gordon is bringing someone for you to meet about 8. Be there, look cute." Shortly thereafter, Gordon walked in with 2 gentlemen. One was the most handsome man I had ever seen. He was movie star good looking. The other was Steve Hardison. But Steve was dazzling. He had charm, charisma, and confidence. He definitely had confidence. It wasn't love at first sight for either of us. But it was interest at first sight, at least for me. Gordon said Steve would call me. He didn't. Not the next day, and not the next week. About the time I wrote him off, the phone rang. We had a fun conversation and we set up a date. On my mum's birthday, February 10th, 1977, Steve came over and we made donuts. 4 days later, I got a Valentine from him. On it, he wrote, February 14, 1977. Amy, I hope you have a lovely Valentine's Day. Thank you so much for the most enjoyable evening. Needless to say, your fantastic donuts didn't last long. Perhaps Gordon, Melinda, you and I could get together for an after Valentine's Day tennis match. By the way, I'm impressed with your many talents. I'm looking forward to hearing you play the piano. RSVP, Stephen F. Hardison. 20 years later, Steve told me he'd passed out a dozen Valentine's Day cards that day. He ended up with 1 extra and decided to drop it by my house. It's a good thing I didn't know at the time that I was an afterthought. I brainstormed for a fun way to respond to this tennis invitation and decided to write my RSVP on a tennis ball and send it to Steve in the mail. Steve liked the creativity. By date 2, magic was starting to happen. It didn't take long until we both determined we had found the person we wanted to spend the rest of our lives with. There was only one complication. I was 17 and still in high school. Meeting the man of my dreams at 17 had definitely not been in my life plan. But what do you do when you meet someone so amazing, loving, talented, fun, creative, charming, powerful, full of dreams and potential, and simply too good to let go? Couples have their stories, the ones they laugh about over the years, the ones their kids ask them to tell over and over, the ones that brand their life with their unique imprint. The cookie sheet encounter and the Valentine's card are 2 of Amy and Steve's. Another is the peanut butter, honey, and banana sandwich date. Amy writes, Helen Keller said it. Steve lives it. I am swept away in his current. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing. I should have known. There were signs from the very first. We hadn't been dating long. We were nearly engaged. It was a beautiful spring day and Steve had planned our date. He said he would handle lunch, but when he showed up, he was traveling light. Oh well, I can always eat later. We jumped on our bikes and pedaled away. We ended up at the playground of a grade school. The merry-go-rounds I had loved as a kid were not to be found, but there were swings and monkey bars. I had to wad my legs up grasshopper-like to sit in the swing. We were substantially out of scale, but we still got lift. Our setting prompted stories of our childhood. Have you ever had a peanut butter, honey, and banana sandwich? Steve asked. No. Did they put all those on one sandwich? They're delicious, Steve assured me. No comment. After swinging and talking, Steve said he was hungry. I raised an eyebrow. I have an idea, Steve said. I'll go ask someone if they will make us lunch, maybe even peanut butter, honey, and banana sandwiches. Would he really do that? I wondered. I hope he wouldn't really do that. Oh no. Steve was knocking on the door of a house across the street from the park. A middle-aged woman opened the door. Steve made his request and she stared at him and then said, "Are you serious?" Steve assured her he was. She started to shut the door and then in mid-motion changed her mind. "Are you really serious?" she asked once more. Now's the time, I thought. Here's where you say you were just kidding. Here, right now. Oh, crap. In about 10 minutes, she reappeared with a paper sack. I peeked in. There were 2 sandwiches. It looks like some peanut butter and the edges of a banana were poking out from between the bread. And something else. Was it a salad? And drinks? This is weird. Now all we need is a blanket, said Steve. This was too much, too over the top. Steve dragged me to the next house. A gruff-looking man opened the door. "Sir, do you have a blanket we could use for a picnic?" He grunted, handed us a blanket that was sitting by the door and turned away. Steve had a nice lunch. I had too much to digest. Why would strangers do that? How do we sufficiently thank them? Does Steve always do stuff like this? Low-grade bewilderment escalated to full-blown anxiety when Steve packed up the blanket and our detritus and started riding in the opposite direction from the man's house. "Where are you going? We have to take the blanket back," I said. Steve kept pedaling. "Steve, we need to take the blanket back." He kept pedaling. "I'm not joking. We have to take the blanket back to its owner, really." Finally, Steve turned his bike around. "I am." It all came together. He was taking the blanket back to its owner. He was the owner. This was no casual ride to the park. It was carefully planned and well executed. It was Steve's riff on a basic date. I should have known Steve would never be conventional. I could count on fun. I could count on unique. I could count on Steve talking to strangers and dragging me out of my comfort zone. This will be an adventure. Before meeting Amy, Steve had dated women who were in college and college graduates who had already launched their careers. He saw in 17-year-old Amy a depth that was unique. He loved how her eyes sparkled, especially when she smiled. She filled a need he didn't know he had. When he was with her, he felt safe. The clincher for Steve occurred where they were deciding what to do one Sunday afternoon. Somewhat sheepishly, Steve said that he would like to study the scriptures. He had just spent 2 of the most intense years of his life absorbed in spiritual things. He'd been thrust back into a workaday world and he missed the light. When he saw the knowledge and love Amy had for the scriptures, he knew he'd found his wife. In the Mormon faith, teenagers don't start dating until they are 16. Amy had just turned 17 when she met Steve. During her 1 year of eligibility, she hadn't dated a lot. She was an old soul and in some ways had matured out of high school before she ever got there. Ada moved to from Phoenix to Mesa during her junior high years. That was socially traumatic and a profound spiritual awakening at 14. And it's clear why Amy always felt a little out of step with other teenagers. When she met Steve, she met someone who was 4 years older, who had experienced a soul-expanding mission, who loved the gospel of Jesus Christ with a passion and commitment, and who adored her in a way she had never experienced. Clearly, their primary connection was spiritual, but underneath that, some deep emotional needs were exerting a magnetic pull, strong enough for Steve and Amy to know they belonged together, strong enough to make them think they were alike.
Their first meeting was on January 23rd, 1977. Their first date was February 10th, 1977. On April 20th, 1977, Steve asked Amy to marry him. But by that point, they had already known for a month that they had each met their one and only. The breakneck speed is astounding, scary, even downright terrifying if you were Amy's mom, especially since Amy was only 17, especially since Steve had just barely rolled into town. He was a sweet talker, but was he as good as he looked? Carol Blake was apprehensive. Amy's dad, Kent, recognized that Steve would be successful and would take care of his daughter. Amy had always been mature. He thought marrying young would work for her. The only comment Kent ever made that was slightly negative was that Steve had the most unusual hairstyle he had ever seen. But that is what everyone thought. Everyone but Steve. Steve could only find one barber in Mesa who could cut his hair so it looked like a yarmulke perched on the top of his head. Once Steve asked Amy for her hand in marriage, the next step was for Steve to ask her father for his permission. Steve told Kent that he didn't know how to be a husband or a father. He had no role model in his home. He had seen more divorces than successful marriages in his family. Kent, a successful attorney, was not ignorant of the risks. However, he saw Steve's heart and his potential. He gave his nod of approval. The next day, Steve drove away. He felt the weight and responsibility of finding a place to live and a way to support his soon-to-be bride. Utah, where he had contacts and opportunities, was definitely the place to do it. He enrolled in Weber State University in Ogden, Utah, found work at Hill Air Force Base, and got licensed to sell real estate. In June, he met up with Amy and her family at Lake Powell, Arizona. As they sat under the evening stars, he slipped a ring on Amy's finger. They were officially engaged. Throughout that summer, Steve and Amy dated long distance. Once or twice they saw each other. Sometimes they called each other, but long-distance phone calls were expensive. Mostly, they wrote letters. Real postal mail that took 3 or 4 days to travel between Arizona and Utah. They wrote nearly every day. At the end of August, Amy moved to Provo, Utah, to attend Brigham Young University, something that had been arranged before she had met Steve. Now they were only 72 miles apart. Steve drove from Clearfield to Provo to see her every weekend until they got married. On one Saturday in December, Steve drove from Clearfield to Provo to pick up Amy and take her back to Clearfield. Then returned to Provo and drove back to Clearfield, all in a blizzard. It was important. It was her birthday. And for months he had been planning an astounding surprise. In the summer, one of the occasions when Amy had traveled to Utah to visit Steve, they sat in a park and Steve pulled out his handouts from a marriage preparation class he had taken. One paper had a list of 100 different items. Each prospective marriage partner was to mark each item as a want or a need. Given the vast differences in Amy and Steve's background, this exercise had the potential for acute divergence. Surprisingly, they mostly agreed until they got to the piano. Immediately, Amy said it was a need. At the same time, Steve said it was a want. Amy felt that it was essential for a family to be raised learning to play musical instruments. Steve thought that owning a piano was a luxury. No big deal. Next. When Steve picked up Amy from Provo in December and took her to Clearfield, he opened the door to their little house. She walked into the living room. There was no furniture, but there was a piano. It had taken almost all the money Steve had set aside. He was not going to start out their marriage without something Amy considered a need. The house with the piano became affectionately known as the Little Pink House, due to the color of the siding. Steve's grandma had inherited a 700 square foot house from her sister, Lavina. It was functionally obsolete for most families. It had only one bedroom, a kitchen, a living room, a bathroom, with a tub but no shower, and a small laundry room. It was located in what Amy and Steve called the Devil's Triangle. It was surrounded by railroad tracks. If you timed it right, you could be stuck inside the triangle for 30 minutes. Grandma Ellen had been renting the house out for $80 a month. It was tattered and frayed. In the summer of '77, Steve was visiting Grandma Ellen when she complained that her renter had missed several months' payments. He was a snarly, unpleasant sort of fellow. She might just sell the house. When Steve asked her how much she was thinking of selling it for, she said $8,000. Steve's mind was clicking. Grandma, I'd love to buy your house, and I'll pay you $10,000. $2,000 more than you're asking. I'll pay you $100 a month, $20 more than you're getting it for it now, if I can buy it without interest. Grandma was happy to be out from under the house, free from the snarky renter, and to have a little more money in her pocket. Steve was happy to have a home for his bride. He carpeted it, painted the interior walls, poured a rather thick patio, his first and only foray into cement work, and generally spiffed it up. 17 months after he and Amy moved into it, they sold the Little Pink House for $32,777. Their profit margin was over 200%. Steve and Amy had chosen December 20th for their wedding date. Amy and Steve would leave immediately after Amy's last final on December 18th and drive to Arizona. They would arrive the night before the wedding. But there was a snag. At that time, in Arizona, you had to have a wedding license at least 48 hours before a wedding. The solution was to get their wedding license when they went to Arizona for Thanksgiving. When Steve and Amy went to the county superior court's office the day after Thanksgiving, the employee took one look at Amy's birth certificate and said, "I can't give you a marriage license unless a parent signs for her. She's only 17. Chagrined, they returned to Amy's house and asked Carol to come with them and sign for Amy to get married. It's a good thing Carol had warmed up to Steve and the idea of her daughter getting married so young. 2 weeks later, Amy turned 18. 2 weeks after that, Steve and Amy got married.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. What a beautiful reading. Beautiful. I'd love to invite the readers to share about any insights about you from this reading, starting with Wolfgang. Wolfgang, would you like to share what came to you?
I certainly do. When I look back what I hear about Steve and Amy, it looks beyond what makes sense. It's going back to feeling and following your heart. And most of you know that I met Emma just about 1.5 months ago. So I had the privilege to experience in physical space what Robert was, how I say, privileged to meet in 1 month later in physical person. And that's powerful. Why that's significant is I'm with men in the circle of men since 20 years. And what I expressed here and what I shared with you is, I mean, I love Emma. And this is significant because when I'm in this energy of the circle of man, there is exactly knowing where I belong to. That means I belong to my wife. And in the same moment, I feel the same energy for another wife, for some other man. So when I share this love to Emma, it is this love which is supporting Robert, where I exactly know since a couple of months, miraculously through this group, I mean, we witnessed that. And that's wonderfully expressed, wonderfully shared. And that is a very, very, very significant thing in our world because we are very confused about that. When I would express my love to another woman, and that is not clear, it would mean that I got involved with another man and crossed somehow. When I'm not crossed with that, it means like I stand behind Robert. And if somebody is aware of, I have a friend from Nepal, and he shared with me the energy of Shiva and Shakti, and when she gets in her power, he better has all the energy of all the men behind himself to be able to handle her, because she is so powerful. And I met this powerful Emma in our space in Wales. And I witnessed and I embrace and I celebrate that power. And when I say I love this energy, I stand behind Shiva, who is Lord Shiva, is the masculine principle. So, Robert, I stand behind you to be able to meet this power of this woman fully. And I think that is what Steve experienced when he met this young Emmy. What made him able doing something which was beyond logic. He went and said, I want to marry you. That nobody understood that. And that's the power of Steve, what makes everyone just being in awe of this love. I'm complete for now.
Thanks. Okay.
I guess I'm up. In reading this, I'm reminded, having just lost my mother yesterday, of my father meeting my mother when they were 15 and 14, back in 1990 or there. And 5 years later or so, I think my father was 21 and my mother was 20, and they had known each other for 5 years, and they're parents didn't really approve of them. No, certainly my mother's parents didn't approve of my father or whatnot. But they got married at 21 and 20. As my mother just graduated from college, is still in college, I think. So it's a similar thing. And they were together for 67 years until my father passed away a couple of years ago, which my mother really got over. And I'm also thinking of my first marriage. I was a little bit older than my parents, and I thought it was love at first sight. Didn't last. That as we get further into the chapters, Amy and Steve are going to have some hard times. We had some hard times, and it didn't last. I'm fortunately happily married for 22 years to my second wife. But first one was kind of like the beginning of that, but it didn't last. My parents did. But they knew each other for 5 years before they got married. I know Rich Litvin, who was and Artisan's partner, who was Hugh Chandler in writing The Prosperous Coach. I think he proposed to his wife, I think in 12 days after they met. They like less than 2 weeks. Days, it's not very long. But it's, for me, I'm feeling it. I'm reading it about my parents, and I'm reading it about me. And sometimes these things work and sometimes they don't. And I know that they will have their ups and downs and will prevail. I know my parents had their ups and downs and will prevail. I prevail differently. By realizing that this thing I was in wasn't working her idea, but it went in years later. My betrothed. But it's interesting to read about that young love and how they worked how it happened so quickly, and how they saw this and just jumped into it. I love that peanut butter and honey and banana sandwich story. That for me, as I said, it really reminds me of my parents. They lasted as long as they did, and just think. So I'll leave it there.
Emma.
Hey. Meeting Amy, meeting Robert. Yeah. So much that I can resonate with this in the knowing of it, I mean, when I first connected with Robert, he was just a member of this community that we had a really nice 30-minute connection call. And although Maria did pass on that she absolutely knew that I'd met my love before I knew. After our first meeting, she said, "You like him?" I said, "Yeah, he's very nice." But yeah, we had a call. We spoke every day, and within 7 days, I had my heart screaming, my whole body just telling me. I had a very visceral feeling that I was madly in love with this man. And it wasn't part of my plan to be madly in love with someone who lives 3,300 miles away. And yeah, it feels so right. I can, it's what do you do when you meet someone who's so loving and powerful and kind and attentive and empowering and affirming? It's just, this is my guy. So it's a real privilege to get to read this chapter and to share in that energy with this community, which has helped me to meet the love of my life. So thank you very much. I'm complete for now.
My turn, my turn. Who's got a peanut butter, honey, and banana sandwich?
I ate mine.
Did you? I brought one. I've never actually eaten one, so today I'm gonna eat my first peanut butter, honey, and banana sandwich, and I think I'm gonna like it because I've had all those things before separately, and they're pretty good. So I'm figuring it's gonna be all good. And I'm not too picky when it comes to food. So, wow, wow, wow! What an amazing gift to be invited to do this, to read The Ultimate Coach, and to have an experience of my being expanded, all the things. And whenever Wolfgang and David were reading, Dave was reading Before You Begin, just thinking about, after I've read this a few times and the experience that I've had, and I've realized I am being the person that I always wanted to be, but wasn't sure in so many areas. And there's always room for improvement, right? But when I'm reading this, I'm feeling grateful for who I am being in life, being able to be open to possibility. And that's what this book has done for me, reading this book and showing up. It's opened me up to possibility of saying yes to what's possible, and opening my heart and my mind and my eyes to what is possible. What's possible? What is possible? And when I look towards possibility, and something that keeps coming up is the questions that I ask myself are so important, because I can ask myself, why is everything so terrible? Or I can ask myself, who do I need to be a more loving person? Or who do I need to be? There's the questions that I ask myself are so powerful. And this book leads me again and again back to, what do I get to create in my life? And what do I get to say yes to that's going to bring me and the people around me more joy? Now, some people might say dating a girl 3,300 miles away is not going to bring you a whole lot of joy, right? It's like, bye, Dave. Love you too. Yeah, some people would say, and when I tell people, there's a little place here close by that's called Scotland, Pennsylvania. So when I tell people, hey, I'm dating this girl from Scotland, people are like, oh yeah. And they're like, sure. And it's like, she flew in from Scotland, and they're like, what do you mean? That's only like 30 minutes from where you live. And I'm like, no, not that Scotland. Scotland over the pond, right? But before reading this book, that would have never been a possibility for me. Never, ever, ever in a million years. I would have been like, well, that's not going to work out. There's no way. There's no way in HE double hockey sticks that would ever work out. And here it is. I told her in our first call that I'm 7 months out of a 7.5 year marriage, and I don't want a relationship for at least 12 months. And I don't know how that came up, but I'm sharing, I don't really want to be in a relationship right now. I want to work on myself. I want to figure out what I need to do. And then somehow, some way, and I've been scared through even when she came and we met, I was like, I've had a lot of people telling me, like, you don't know who this person is until you meet them. And I'm, letting other people's story get into my head, and like, maybe it's going to be terrible. Oh shoot. What happens if she shows up and then she's kissing like, and I'm kissing like, and then it doesn't match or whatever, and we showed up and we created such an amazing experience. And, who Emma is amazing. Every time she tells me about me, I keep thinking, you're talking about yourself. I hear you talking about yourself. Every time you create me to be something, I hear you talking about yourself. And I love that. And just the experience of all the Ultimate Coach book this book and this group and all the people in it have changed my life. It's awakened me to possibility that before this experience that I never thought would be possible. Never ever in a million years. I would have never thought that I'd be. I mean, I wasn't good at geography, and I was like, I'm never going to need this. It's not like I'm going to date some girl that lives in Scotland, right? So, you know, I will not very that, I'm not that great on geography because I didn't really pay attention to it because I never thought I'd need to understand geography. But after getting in this group, I'm like, I guess I need to go back to learning geography because I'm going to the UK for the Birmingham experience, and I'm starting to think about travel and things like that. And I'm a small town guy, and it's just this book is just, it speaks to possibility. And when I read it from that space, and I read it from the space of possibility, then anything's possible. Anything's possible, which is, maybe tomorrow I say, no, it's not. I'm just going to sit in my room and do nothing. But for today, anything's possible. So thank you for being part of that. Thank each and every one of you who created that possibility in Emma and I's life and in the lives of so many other people. This is a gift. This is a gift. Look, we get to sit around and talk about how anything's possible while so many other people would do something else, and that's okay. This is amazing, an amazing gift and experience, and thank you all for being part of it. I love you. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to just add on to that as well, just to thank everyone for how they create our relationship as well, and the vision that you hold of us and the love and the support that you've offered us from the beginning has been astounding, and I'm full of so much love and gratitude for absolutely everyone here, for your support and for your encouragement and for your belief in it, where outside in the other world there's a bit like, well, how's that gonna work? And in this space everyone's like, it's totally working, you're gonna create it however you want, this is amazing. And I love that energy, so thank you.
Yeah. Oh, everyone, I invite everyone to send out, I don't know, whatever you want, woohoo, a heart to Emma and Robert. We love you. We love you. We see you. We believe in you. All this, anything is possible. And you're creating such beautiful, beautiful possibilities. We love this. So, and thank you for reading. And I think, do we have time? Yes, we've got time. I'm the timekeeper, so gosh. There's so much richness in this right now, and for all of us. So let's see. I'm going to open it up to the community. I just want to share one thing that came to me. My question was around improving relationships, my most important relationships. So, and I heard like the daring adventure that to make it fun and unconventional and unique and joyful. So yeah, no more efforting and trying and efforting, and it's like joyful and fun, and we get to do crazy stuff. So I'm all for that, like 100% for the spontaneity and the adventure and the fun, and creating that in my life, and everyone the most important relationships with me. So I'm opening it up to you. If you got some insight into you, who would like to go? Oh, I see Ipek right on. Ipek, go.
Thank you, Andrea, and thank you everyone who read, especially obviously Emma and Robert. So while they were reading the chapter, I was thinking how much the whole world is in need of much more love at the moment. And how amazing it is us coming here and putting together our energies to send out love to the universe. And it reminded me of the time I got close with my now husband, Craig. And when I was getting really falling in love with him, I said to him, and it was like, I don't know, maybe 6, 7, 8 months into our dating and relationship. I said to him, I love you. And he turned around to me and said, I am deeply in like with you, but I can't say I love you yet. But please don't worry about it. I am getting there, and you will be able to tell when I'm there, even if I don't say it. I was like, oh my God, what am I? He doesn't love me. Of course, what I hear from that, the one thing I hear is he doesn't love me as much as I love him. But then a few months later, and I didn't understand what he meant. Like, you will understand when I am really in love with you. What did he mean? And a few months later, he made something incredibly impossible possible. And when he did that, which is very personal something, when he did that, I knew, oh, that's what he meant. That was it. That when he said, you will know. And I knew with all my being that he was then in love with me. And then that day, he said, I love you. And I said, I know. So this whole chapter and Emma and Robert's story reminded me of that experience of my own, and how amazing love is. So cherish every moment of deep, beautiful love. And I must also say, my love and affection for my husband and his for me only grew from that point on. And our relationships is getting better and better every day, because of course, with the help of the book, we also learned how to create love for each other more and more every day, like nurturing it. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share. Thank you for listening.
Oh, yeah. So I see Wolfgang, your hand is up. Would like to give Steve Shaw a chance to share. Steve, first.
Yeah, this is really really powerful, and the idea of talking into possibility and saying, the group being who you surrounding with, and how this group is very supportive for something that doesn't sound logical, right? You got a couple living across the ocean, and the reason why it resonates with me is I just got back from a trip with my wife's family, and we stayed with her uncle, and her uncle has a daughter that they haven't spoken in over 20 years, and they live a mile away from each other, you know, and his wife had just went out to see him because his wife had passed, my wife's aunt, and the daughter never went to go see her mother. And you know, I just think of people who are stuck in their stories and stuck in that's the way it is, and who aren't, you know, and there's a few other stories I could say, but just the idea you're away a mile away, literally a mile away from their parents, and for whatever grievance over 20 years ago, and you can't see a possibility. You know, it broke my heart. And there was a few other scenes where people just got stuck in their story. And so the idea of seeing this and it was really moving, instead of focusing on, wow, this isn't going to work. This is not. And so that's what I'm really moved by today. So thank you very much for this group to live in possibility, and grateful to be here. I'm complete.
Thank you, Steve. And if let's listen to some of you that haven't shared as yet today. Please raise your electronic hand if you haven't spoken yet today and shared about you. Tanya?
Hi, thank you, Andrea.
Thank
You, Emma and Robert. You're both and so inspiring the way that you're creating your relationship. And what I'm really present with today is how the beginning of my relationship with my husband, we've been together for 23 years. And in the beginning of our relationship, we weren't allowed to be together. We weren't supposed to be together. And it really created a feeling within me of not feeling good enough. And I recognize and I'm present with how this book has shifted my thoughts and shifted my feelings, and even the way that I show up now with my husband, although it's still a work in progress, but honoring that I am worthy of this relationship, and just really being present to why do I feel the need to hold on to those past stories when they're no longer even valid, and how that has created like almost a paralyzation within me and a lack of true creativity and fun in my relationship, because I was still holding on to those feelings of unworthiness. We're still not supposed to be together. And so I just really love what you said, Robert, open to possibility, and how both of you said how the importance and how the encouragement of this village of the ultimate coach has supported you and continues to support you in your love and in your creations of each other and of yourselves. But that village, how powerful a village of love is to have around you. And I didn't have that. I really didn't have that. And so rather than looking at it as a negative thing, just really growing from that and not allowing that to create impossibility, and still creating fun and life through speaking life, through consciously creating each other, which is not something I really was good at. So just to be present with the shift that's being created within me, that is recreating my relationship with my husband as well, and how much love. And in the chapter when it said Steve felt safe with Amy, and I think of the turbulence my marriage has gone through over the years, and as a possibility where my husband nor I felt safe in our relationship. But today is totally a new story. We're both recreating a new story, and letting go, the possibility of letting go of the thoughts that no longer serve self or a relationship, and being willing to create from the now of right now. So, and that's where I'm at. So I just wanted to really honor both of you, Robert and Emma, for what you're creating for yourselves, for what you're creating around you, for what you're creating for your families and your children and in your relationship. And so thank you. Thank you for being such a beautiful representation of the possibility of creating love here and now, no matter the challenges. So yeah, I'm complete.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you. Thank you. Well, we've got about 3 minutes left, so giving it to Caroline. Caroline, please share.
Hi, Andrea. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm just checking the button. Thank you. I want to say two things. One was Farah's invitation to read this as a meeting of Amy was very powerful to me, because as I heard it, what was occurring for me is my own meeting of Amy through how she creates Steve and all of his experience, both in this book, when I met her in Mumbai, India, physically, when I met her again in Zoom recently with herself and Steve as part of the Birmingham experience. And every time I meet her, her authenticity really speaks to me. And the line that strikes me the most in this chapter is with regard to the piano, and how Steve said he was not going to start their marriage without something Amy considered a need. So the question I'm sitting with is, who do I need to be in my relationships to prioritize the thing that is a need for the other, even if it's only a want for me? I feel complete. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Wolfgang.
Ooh, that was beautiful, Caroline. Prioritize. Who do I need to be to prioritize? And that's important for the other. That's a need for the other and a want for me, maybe. Wow, that's gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Thank you. Well, I think we do have a minute left. Is there anyone else that has something that they would like to share that hasn't shared as yet? Hand up. Otherwise, we give last word to Wolfgang. Wolfgang, go. You're muted.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'm rather brief. And I think the question goes back to everyone. Did I fall in love or did I create my love? I'm complete, thank you. I love you all. And I love you, Emma. I love you, Robert. And I stand behind you. Ho.
Thank you, Wolfgang. So I think we're timed. So well done, everyone. Look at that. We kept time, honored time, and honored ourselves. And I hope you feel excited and loved up. And who cannot feel loved up in all your energy. So I'm gonna pass it now to, who am I passing it to again? Maria, where are you? Maria, there you are. Hey, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you so much, Andrea. And thank you everybody who has shared today. It's, you know, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I get as much from the shares as I do from the reading. Just hearing how other people think and then that sends you on like these beautiful little, well, I call them rabbit trails, and it used to be negative, right? You follow your rabbit trails, but I find those trails to be the most creative. So I follow that rabbit trail. So thank you so much for always sharing, you know, the parts of you. You never know how you touch somebody, and sometimes, you know, I don't comment or whatever, but know that I very deeply care about what each of you say. So thank you. And thank you for being here, of course. And I agree with everybody. It's like amazing to have a community where possibility is not off the table, right? Where we can create it and people will believe it with you. Like, that's precious. That is precious. Yeah, I work with kids a lot, and so I think about that a lot for them. Like, do they have that? You know, yeah, anything is possible. You can do it. You know, so I'm so grateful to have this community for that. But really, you know, what came up for me today was I didn't realize I grew up partly in Salt Lake City. So one of the reasons I got attracted to this book was Steve is from Ogden, Utah, Clearfield. I was born at Hill Air Force Base, where his mother worked and his brothers worked, and we were all there about the same time. So it was in my mind, I could imagine my father like talking to his mother or his brothers as they clear the table or whatever. So then I realized as we were reading today that my best friend since 1984, we met and we were like, there you are, I was looking for you. And she lived in Provo at the same time Amy was at BYU. So I thought that was just, you know, just another connection. They say you're only like 6 connections away from everyone, right? So so that came up for me today. And then the second thing that really came up for me today was like thinking about the beautiful love stories that are in my family. You know, my mom and dad, my mother was working in Africa. My dad was working in Châteauroux, France, and they both went on vacation to the Mallorca Islands, and they stayed in the same hotel. And my mother went out actually with his best friend, and okay, let's just say it, he farted all the way there. And so my mom was like, oh, I have a headache. And so she went back to the bar, and my dad was at the bar. And that's how they met. And then later that man, his name is Max Sennett, he was their best man at their wedding. And so they laughed about it for years, but it just wasn't meant to be, you know. She was meant to find my dad. And they stayed vacationing for a month. And then my father said, no, you're not going back to Africa. You're coming with me. And he found her a job in France, and they moved in together. And as soon as they could get a divorce, they got married. So they're just like this, you know, they met and they knew. They didn't even speak the same language. So it was definitely, my dad said a lot of pointing and, you know, things like that. And then I think about my aunt and uncle who met in high school. They were high school sweethearts, and they were married their whole life. They're absolutely their whole life together. And they had fun. That was the one thing about Aunt Phyllis and Uncle Walt. They enjoyed their marriage together. They enjoyed hanging out together. And so I think about that like a rich history that I have in my family. So that's kind of what it came up for me today. I think sometimes, you know, you can look at, I've had 2 marriages that have failed. So, you know, that could be my story, right? That, you know, that's for other people, beautiful romantic stories. But in this possibility, in this community, anything is possible. So anyways, that's what came up for me today. And thank you all so much for being here and for listening to me. I appreciate it. Okay, so I am the announcement girl. And so I'm going to now go through all our acknowledgements and just say thank you so much to Emma and Robert. Thank you for your time, your gift of time. That's my favorite Joni Mitchell line. And the gift of your extra time. Thank you for your gift. I love it. Oh, it's in your pocket. I love it, Robert. I thought we had to like pin down, like, don't forget your homework kind of thing. Love it. Love it. So thank you both. And it has been a joy. And Emma, I have to say, I said to you, you're smitten. And she was like, no, he's just a really nice guy. I was like, no. So anyways, had to clear that one up. I love it. It was so beautiful to watch unfold. and still is, of course. I also want to acknowledge our readers. Thank you, Wolfgang, for stepping up and reading and for your beautiful share. I love how you bring that sense of I'm standing behind you, like there's somebody actually covering your back. You know, you're supporting Robert in loving Emma, and you're supporting me in loving myself, and you're supporting this group in loving all of us. And I loved that. So thank you for that share. And David, are you still here, David? Do I see you? No, well, I just want to make this acknowledgement to David. You know, his mother passed yesterday, and I just thank you all for the comments that you made in the chat to support him. And you know, it takes a lot to continue with your commitments through your pain and through your not wanting to do it, right? Where you're just like, okay, I'm committed to this. I'm going to do it even though I don't feel like it. I saw a Ruth Ginsburg quote yesterday, and she said, "Speak your voice even if it shakes. Even if your voice shakes, speak it." And so I love that. And so thank you, David, for speaking your voice today and being with us. Let's see. Farah, thank you so much for being here and being our moderator one, giving us a nice welcome. So appreciate that. And I know you have family things, so blessings for that. And we're all behind you and supporting you. Andrea, you are always a delight and so beautiful. And so thank you so much for, you know, hosting this meeting tonight and just being you. You're always light. You know, when I think of you, Andrea, I think of light and feathers. That is always what I think of when I think of you. So thank you for your beautiful light. And see, there it is. I love it. I totally love it. You have your feather. So thank you for bringing that energy. Let's see. And of course, thank you to Team Talk for, you know, putting us all together and inviting people and, you know, for showing up for the meetings and things. You know, thank you. Thank you for the gift of your extra time. And I really mean that. Okay, so our next meeting is this Wednesday, 7 p.m. Pacific. Don't ask me to do the math. You will do much better with Google, because I will put you at the wrong time and you won't show up. And I think there's people on here who can attest to that. All right. Anyway, so it's chapter 9, Newlyweds, and our guest speaker or reader is going to be Sonia Sapien Ramirez. So very excited to have her here with us and to read this, you know, the challenging and wonderful times of being a newlywed, right? Okay, so I would like to announce the upcoming 2-year anniversary of the book and the celebration that's going to be built around it in Arizona. And that is January 26th and 27th, 2024. And if you haven't gotten your tickets or you need information or you need help with that, just put it in the chat and we'll make sure to get back to you. Also, don't forget the TUBE 24, the Ultimate Birmingham Experience in the UK, May 25th and 26th, 2024. Also seems to be wrapping up to be amazing. So if you need help with figuring that out or need tickets, just let us know, we'll help. Don't forget all the beautiful, beautiful routes that are taking places in other places besides Facebook. For example, we have the Ultimate Coach YouTube channel. Make sure you check that out. Someday, if you're just, you know, just need some kind of encouragement, I swear you could just like spin the roulette wheel and poke at a video and it will be exactly what you need to hear that day. So I encourage you to go on there. And also the podcast, the Coach IG, the LinkedIn group, bringing being into business. And also the digest newsletter. I really like that. It kind of like is my reminder. And then in that, I can put it right into my calendar. So that makes it really simple for me to be like, oh yeah, I want to do that. And then it goes just right into my Google. So yeah. So again, thank you so much for everybody for being here. And it just wouldn't be right if you weren't here. And every time we have somebody else come in new, it's like the energy, you can feel it. And we love you and we're so happy that you're here with us. And you know, please always feel welcome to share. We want to hear. Yeah, I think sometimes it may be difficult to share. I know I've been in that place in my life where like I wanted to be wallpaper, you know, but don't, you know, this is a safe space. So please share with us your thoughts. We'll love it, I promise. So anyways, I would like to unmute everybody now and let's okay. Don't forget the after party. If you're able to stay, you want to hear, talk more, it's not recorded. It's just a nice hangout spot. So if you'd like to go hang out. All right. All right. Well, love you all so much. Thank you all for being here today. You're
You
too, Maria,
amazing.
thanks.
See
Have a
you
great-
on Wednesday.
Great day,
great.
Sunday. Happy
Bye,
Sunday,
everybody. Have a
everyone.
great
Enjoy,
day,
everybody.
night, wherever you are.
Bye.
Love y'all.
Sweet dreams if
Thank
you're
you. I love
sleeping.
you.
Sweet daydreams if you're awake.
Please remember to eat a peanut butter, honey, and banana sandwich today.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Love y'all. See ya.
Bye.